Hey, I'm learning TFT and I have a special VOD review today from Set 7 world champion Xunge. He's a Chinese player who has just killed it in the competitive scene. And this game is really special because we're playing on loot subscription and he's going to make some pretty crazy plays, especially in the end game to secure the finish. So I guarantee you're going to want to stick around for the last few minutes of this game because it's just insane. But you can see that he started with the duelist opener, but with the tier and rod drop, which aren't great for duelists since you usually want swords, bows, cloaks. He then transitions into holding the Dragon Lord units, and he aggressively makes 10, which is something that I've noticed a lot of these Chinese players do. They either try to win streak aggressively or hit econ breakpoints. Now, he wanted to consider Shen there, but it seemed like there may have been someone contesting. And the Dragon Lord would be perfect for this setup, but he saw that someone else was holding Janna's, I believe. This guy. So that this guy has Janna 2 already, so he doesn't want to contest that. And he, even though he has no porcelain units, selects the porcelain emblem. And especially in a meta like the one we have right now, where there's only a few meta comps that are really dominating. You have the forecasts in the form of Lee Sin, Ashe, Syndra, Lilia, and Morgana. You really want to make sure that you're playing uncontested. And so by avoiding the Dragon Lord line, the Invoker line that it seemed like when he was scouting may be contested, he's setting himself up for a more efficient stage 4 on the level 8 roll down. It's a cute little setup that he had there with the two Sivers both stacking the attack speed for the Janna. That's definitely something I'm going to try to use more. And he'll make the Siver 2. He did select Patient Study, so he doesn't really mind losing right now. The key thing is making sure that he gets to stage 4 with plenty of gold to hit the forecast units, which if he's playing Porcelain, he's going to be playing around Ashe. And he already has that rod, so he's probably going to be looking to secure a bow on Carousel. And with the tier, most likely some type of frontline unit or frontline item. Could be Vow, it could be Redemption. It could also be Shojin if he can find an item holder. He does get the bow with the Janna, which is perfect. He could make an adaptive or a Shojin with that tier if he can find an AP item holder that could then transition into Lysandra in the late game. And he's probably going to look to make this Rage Blade and place it on the Elune. So notice again, he has the Siver in that second row that can then grant attack speed to both the Elune and the Janna. And he's just really playing flexibly around this Silas that he found in the Elune, which is really strong in this early in the game, to take advantage of any 4 costs, 3 costs that you find that can give you a head start, especially a very cost-effective board that may help you win a few rounds. He doesn't mind losing because he does have patient study. But he does pull off 2 wins here off of an extremely cheap board. He's keeping an eye on Exalted since he does have 2 out of 3 Exalted. Any edge that you can get, he already is getting 2 to 3 gold per turn off patient study. If he can also get in an extra gold off of Exalted, that'll help him go 8 even faster, possibly even into a fast 9. And with these items, the 2 tiers are a little bit awkward. Most likely this looks like a redemption. He could make blue buff, which isn't great since you mostly want to play around Ashe. And if you're not making blue buff, you're probably making redemption and adaptive. which is what he slams. He is holding on to the Aphelios on bench since snipers are great with the Rage Blade and sets you up for that mid-game transition into the Ashe, as well as holding on to the Yone in case you can find a Yorick for 4 Umbral, but he prefers the Alawi. Now, this is where it's interesting. Combat Caster just has insane stats. It's just a very strong all-around augment. But he selects Salvage Bin. And the first time I watched this, I was just scratching my head. Like, does he want to remake this porcelain emblem into some other emblem? Like, what's his play here? Is kind of what I'm thinking. He does kind of already have the Rage Blade slammed, and he can remake that, but it seems like he already has some solid direction. He doesn't have that many wardens yet. He did have the Alawi that he just found and put in. And he does find this Lux, finally gets in porcelain after all of stage 2 and 3. And it looks like he's going to try to put in. So I was thinking maybe he makes a different emblem now. He could have looked to find an Umbral emblem, like a glove off of Carousel. I'm not exactly sure what else he might have been looking for, but we'll see later the power of Salvage Bin, especially in this Portal loot subscription. And like I said before, this Salvage Bin selection on stage 3-2 is going to be key in what I can only describe as an insane epic transition in the late game, which I feel like only robots and Xunge can do. So we have a Gunblade slam here, which is, when you think that, keep in mind that you're playing towards Ashe. Gunblade is decent on Ashe in a traditional Warden sniper setup, but it's especially powerful when you're playing Ashe with a porcelain angle, because the healing that you put onto your frontline porcelain units, tanks, is you get, I think it was, I forget what percentage, but extreme damage reduction. And so every amount that you heal drastically increases the effective HP of those tanks. And so that Gunblade slam is extremely strong, and we'll see that later as well. So right now we have 50 gold, level 7 on 3-6. He has a great setup going into stage 4. He's fairly healthy with 63 HP. Not the most healthy in the world, but definitely not very low life. He gets another bow, which is great. He eventually can turn that into a Last Whisper. Could maybe have a red buff. And we're just getting a lot of items. He gets another spatula. So that lets him build another porcelain emblem. He's going through his roll down. Unfortunately, hasn't hit any Ashe. Still no Ashe. But he will be able to now, with the extra spat, go toward a 6 porcelain angle, which is extremely strong. And again, with that Gunblade, you're just going to get so much damage reduction on your front line. Ashe is scaling and healing in the back line. And you can see this setup and what it might look like. He sells the Alune. It's like, seems so risky to me. I would never make that play. I wouldn't even trust my APM to do that. And especially with Salvage Bin to have the wherewithal to keep in mind what you're trying to do and make these decisions on the fly is just insane. I was surprised he didn't slam like a Shojin at least onto either your Lissandra or Azir here, but it looks like his board's already strong enough and beats, I believe that was, I don't remember if that was a Syndra 1 or 2. And he finally finds the Ashe, gets the Amumu as well, so now he's primed for the 6 porcelain setup. He does have the Nautilus too. Annie with a porcelain emblem is one of the best porcelain item holders in the game. He wants to put that gunblade back on. And I'm surprised he's not slamming an adaptive either on the Nautilus or the... Wow, he actually wins this fight. So this again is just the 6 porcelain with that healing and that scaling with the rage blade is just so strong that he won with an Ash 1 there. He would love to find this list with the rod, which gives him list 2 as well as possibly adaptive with JG, which would be some great items on lists on stage 4. Being able to put that together and hopefully help you farm some more items, some gold to help us get to level 9 and or more gold to roll down to find this Ash. And so we're in a pretty good place right now. This looks like a 6 Dryad board. And so one thing to keep in mind is that on loot subscription, when there are a lot of spatulas being thrown around, you really do need to keep an eye on what the win condition is. Normally, you get 6 Dryad, 6 Porcelain. You feel like you're doing pretty good, but the whole tempo of the lobby is going to be much higher. And so as we're approaching the late game, Xunge is going to be keeping that very closely in mind. And we'll see what he ends up doing with that. And keep in mind that salvage bin that he selected on 3-2. He gets another sword off of a list farmed component, which would be helpful for a 3rd item on the list. He still doesn't have any anti-heal, still doesn't have any shred for his Ash. He does find the Annie 2 finally. I apologize for the background noise. It looks like someone's playing fireworks at night here. So he slams the Warmogs on the Nautilus. Probably find some type of rod item for the Lysandra, I imagine. Oh, he runs out of time hesitating. So now he has 2 swords, which is very unfortunate. Just look at the sustain on this board, but he runs into a team with 4 3-stars. And even then, this was an extremely close fight. And he still only has an Ash 1. So he's going 9. He's looking for that Ash 2. Does get in another Invoker for 4 Invoker. Unfortunately, oh, there's the Ash. So he finds the Ash 2, and now his board is looking really strong. Oh, he reforged the 2 swords, and very fortunately got the Last Whisper. But that's really clever. So with Salvage Bin and a Reforger, normally if you don't like your components, you can only reforge 1 component. But with Salvage Bin, you could just make a completed item out of 2 components you don't like, reforge them, and they'll both get reforged, and then you can just sell it to then make a new item. But Last Whisper is actually perfect for him right now. And later, if he wants to, he can sell that and make a TG as another possibility. So he's level 9 at this point, can continue to farm gold. It looks like his board's extremely strong now. He's only Lilia 2 away from, I believe, 2-starring all of his key important units. Here, some type of 3rd item for lists seems to make the most sense. But he goes for the Story Weaver emblem. So what is he trying to do here? He can get a 3rd porcelain emblem if he sells the Last Whisper, which seems to be what he's going to do. So he values the 3rd emblem over the Last Whisper shred, which is very interesting. He makes the TG. And so now this is where it starts to get really interesting, because he has 3 spatulas. And while he does have 6 porcelain in right now. Normally, I would think that's enough. You're 3 streaking. You have 51 HP. Your board looks great. Like, let's just take this team to the finish line, right? That's what would be going on in my head. Instead, Xunge, look at the units that he's holding on his bench. He's holding a Garen and a Zoe on his bench, and a Galio. Why is he doing this? He's keeping in mind what he's playing toward, and he finds a Sivir as well. He's keeping in mind what he's playing for at level 10 because he knows this is loot subscription. He knows that the tempo of the lobby is going to be extremely high and people can cap out really well. And look, he had 2 vests. He selected a crown guard there. He had 2 vests in the form of stone plates in his front line, but he was missing a 3rd vest, and he's looking for the final Story Weaver units that he's missing. Now, with that crown guard selection off of the completed item, he has 3 vests that if he were to sell them later, he can convert all of his porcelain emblems into Story Weaver emblems. And you need 3 Story Weaver emblems to hit 10 Story Weaver as the ultimate chase max trait. 10 Story Weaver KL3. And so now we're starting to see what the endgame game plan might look like if this porcelain team can't get him to the finish line. Now, again, if this was just me, I'd be like, hey, I'm 6 streaking. I have 50 HP. Looks like I'm pretty good. Instead, he is planning for this massive transition into 10 Story Weaver. Like, blowing my mind. Like, how crazy is that? And it seems like it might not even be necessary. So maybe he's just doing this for shits and giggles and he finds the Relion carousel as well. So now he has actually all the pieces he needs. He open sells, gets the 10 Story Weaver in. Like, what a Giga Chad. Like, oh my God, this guy. He's like, where do I even put the last emblem? There it is. The other guy just FFs. Wow. Just wow is all I can say. If he even solo frontlines, the Kale 3, or is it a Kale 4? I guess 10 Story Weaver is a Kale 4. He doesn't even itemize his units. He's like, let's just see how this Kale 4 goes. Unfortunately, it gets wiped out. You can look at his expression. He's just giggling to himself. It's like, okay, that didn't quite work. So he's going to actually set up a board now. So now you can see how all the pieces fit together. He's itemizing his units, but it was that stage 3-2 salvage bin selecting the emblem off of carousel, that Story Weaver emblem, and then picking the crown guard with a vest to make sure he had 3 vests, and then having the wherewithal to actually hold the Sivir, the Garen, which would be extremely hard to put together, all the Story Weaver units to put together this 10 Story Weaver board. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I know I did. I'll see you in the next one, and thanks for watching.